Good Morning Miramar, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. right here, right now.
Good morning, Miramar. I'm Danielle Reales.
I'm Shaniqua Fleming.
And I'm Alexis Fox. Welcome.
Welcome to the show. We are here today with a very special, in case you missed it, segment of Good Morning Miramar. We are giving you all a reintroduction to Beyond Boundaries, a monthly series that we've started for the new year, just to talk about different areas of personal and interpersonal growth. And we actually have subject matter expert, Miramar business owner and resident, Dr. Shaniqua Fleming. Hi, Dr. Fleming.
Good morning, Danielle. Good morning, Alexis.
Thank you so much for being here again with us today. So we had a great conversation earlier this month for our very first segment of Beyond Boundaries. But before we get into that, I just kind of want to talk to you a little bit about, just tell the audience a little bit about what Beyond Boundaries is to you and kind of how we're formulating the show and this special series to benefit all of them.
Okay, great. Well, this segment really resonated with me because I work with some of the most brilliant minds in the world. People that want to defy the status quo. They are visionaries, they're change agents. They don't live in a box. In fact, they break the box. And so this segment of Beyond Boundaries, we're really going into some specific areas that many of us, we go back and forth in our minds about where can we go, who can we be? And sometimes it's just those mental things, that mindset, if you will, that helps us to get there. So we have a year, well, actually 11 months left of things just packed with that. So we invite you to tune in. We invite you to send us messages, ask us questions, but most importantly, go beyond whatever is keeping you from being your greatest self.
Yes, definitely. Now, Alexis, I want you to give kind of your little piece as well.
For me, Beyond Boundaries has just been an experience to help really elevate who we are. And as Dr. Fleming mentioned, just being our better self and kind of what that journey looks like for people from all different facets and walks of life. And so it's really just an inclusive thing. We want you all to feel connected with us, connected with Dr. Fleming, and just to really absorb the nuggets that she's going to share with us throughout this experience.
No pressure.
So it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, this special series takes place the second Tuesday of every month. We have a really great segment for the month of February coming up, all about relationships. So we want you to tune into that. It's the day before Valentine's Day, February 13th. But remember, we are going to give you just another peek of the very first segment of Beyond Boundaries about reinventing yourself. So just in case you missed it, you can tune in right now. We're so excited to introduce this new series that we have. It's happening once a month, the second Tuesday of every month, and it's called Beyond Boundaries with Dr. Shaniqua Fleming. Now, I'd like to introduce Dr. Fleming. She's a very special woman who was actually on our show back in November, and she really helped us birth this new series and really make this new programming that we have for you all possible. So not only is Dr. Fleming a proud Miramar resident, but she's also the founder and CEO of Dr. Fleming she's the founder and CEO of Perfect Solutions Consulting Group, Inc. That's a Miramar-based consulting firm with over 25 years of experience in organizational strategy, human resources, executive leadership, coaching, brand development, business development, and brand strategy. Dr. Fleming is a native of Charleston, South Carolina, and she's also a proud wife and mother of 2 children. And she considers herself to be a lifelong learner and believes that people are the most valuable resource to any organization. She holds her Bachelor of Science degree in Political Science from Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, a Master of Science in Business Administration, and a Doctor of Education in Organizational Development from Nova Southeastern University. Dr. Fleming is well known in our community for accelerating and elevating and optimizing the performance of organizations, executives, and aspiring leaders. So we're so excited to have you on the show this morning.
Good morning. I'm excited to be here.
Welcome. Well, welcome back.
Yes.
Yes. So we've had a couple of conversations the past few weeks, and we're just really excited about this new series and this new content that we're creating for Good Morning Miramar. Yeah. So first, I want to talk to each of you ladies, kind of what Beyond Boundaries means to you and kind of why we kind of wanted to birth this new series. So
Right. Okay. Well, I know for us as the regular host and co-host of this show, that we really wanted to do something to draw the crowd, our residents here, into us for more than just their daily municipal needs, right? We want them to be able to look at this program for personal growth, spiritual growth, financial growth, and just overall wellness. And so in doing so, we were really interested in trying to reinvent the show, in a sense, which is how we came across this idea. And we were so inspired by your story that you shared back in November with us of just your business and everything that you did and are still doing to further yourself, that we thought it would be great to marry the two and incorporate all that you have to give, all of your nuggets to this program. And so, it's a new year, and everybody loves to say new year, new me. So we thought it would be a great idea to kick off our Beyond Boundaries segment talking about reinvention.
Yes, and before we get into reinvention, I kind of want to hear, Dr. Fleming, your take as well on kind of what you're envisioning as well as part of this new series.
So when we first had the conversation and we talked about Beyond Boundaries, actually that name came later. We had some other ones, so that was kind of I was like, no, I think it needs to be something a little, and so we all agreed. So we were synergistically connected there. But when we were talking about the segments and what it really should unfold, it resonated with me, your vision for what you wanted to bring to the city of Miramar and its residents, because I think a lot of times when we talk about businesses or organizations, or even families for that matter, there are desires, but sometimes there may not be the know-how or even the reassurance that these things are possible, and a lot of times we can get stuck in those things that aren't, instead of focusing on those things that really are. And the power of what really is so much more than those things that aren't. And so that resonated with me, and so I gladly accepted the invitation to be here.
Yes, and we're so excited to have you on.
Thank you.
The show. Now, reinventing yourself. I think that means something different to everybody, and we wanted to focus, like we talked about in our previous conversation, on reinventing yourself for the month of January, because there's a lot of talk about new year, new you, and really trying to I read something funny the other day. It's funny how just completing a rotation around the sun makes people want to change their life and and do something different. So we are definitely here for that newfound motivation that the new year brings to everybody. So we wanted to talk about reinventing yourself. So the first topic and question I want to throw out there is kind of, what do you ladies think it means to reinvent yourself?
Well, let's start with you.
Okay.
When you think of reinventing yourself, what comes to mind?
So for me, I think reinventing yourself is all about taking what was and just really analyzing it and saying, okay, this is what I like about myself. This is maybe what I think I could improve on. Not so much harboring down on yourself and putting yourself down and saying, oh, I'm not good at this, or I'm not good enough, or I'm bad at this, but saying, these are my qualities and my strengths. This is where I want to be, and how am I going to hone in on those strengths that I have to push me forward into the person that I want to become or the tasks that I want to accomplish. So I think that that's really what reinventing yourself is about. It's honing in on your strengths and really taking those strengths, multiplying them into becoming a better version of yourself.
Okay.
What about you, ladies?
I'm going to say that reinvention for me is a journey. It's not one of those things that can be quantified and checked off a list. I think there's something beautiful about the fluidity of a process. I think that there is something beautiful about every part of a transformation. And I think people like to scale reinvention into like this huge thing, like you're gonna come out on the other end of this completely different from who you started. And to me that's sad, because when I really think about it, I like who I am right now. Like, I don't know that there needs to be necessarily a drastic change, but there's always room for learning and improvement. And so I think that for me, reinvention is that. It's that journey of self and just realizing that there are things that I haven't done, there are things that I need to continue doing, and there are things that I want to understand about myself.
All right, so I like what both of you have offered already. And I think there's like this perfect connection of what you're saying and what I'm thinking and how I see it, which is, for me, reinvent is yourself specifically, is really to live out a higher expression of ourselves, right? And so when we think about that, essentially that's magnifying who we already are. And so I love what you said, using those things that we already know about ourselves and saying, okay, how can I elevate this? And Alexis, to your point, it is a process. So it's not like it starts today, it ends tomorrow, but it's that point where you realize there's more that I have to offer and there's more to my purpose. And so there's this subconscious yearning, and sometimes consciously, that there's more. And so that's why, you know, people that are considered goal driven, I'd say they're really purpose driven, because when we've achieved things, it's like, but there's got to be more.
Right.
And not more that you're not appreciating what already is, but there's that desire to live out a higher expression of who we really were intended to be. And I don't think it's by accident. I think God made us that way.
Absolutely. And
I agree.
I was listening to something this morning about identity, and sometimes we think about ourselves and we say, you know, I'm not a morning person. And maybe it's not necessarily that we're not a morning person, but maybe, you know, our environment growing up, the people around us weren't morning people, and we drew from their identity as not being morning people, and that's just an example, and made that our own. So I think reinventing yourself also really, you know, you have to take a look at who you are and what makes you who you are, and really, you know, self-analyze and try and figure out, okay, is this really me? Is this what I like? Is this who I am? Or am I drawing from maybe my social circle that I have?
That's a really good point.
With.
Yesterday, I was having a conversation with a coaching client, and it's a new client, so we're just starting the process. And I said to him, you know thyself. We're going to start there. So who are you? And we had some really colorful paper all over the room, so it was plastered with lots of beautiful colors. And as he got up, he stood there for a moment, and he held the marker in his hand, and as he started to write, you know, I saw all the things that he wrote about himself. And as we started to unpack that, he realized that while I was asking him to express what he was aware of about himself, he really wrote out and cataloged reflective things, what other people said about him. And so the beauty of that session, though, was at the end of it, he realized that who he really is had not as much to do with other, you know, as much to do with how other people had described him, but more about how he felt about himself. And some of those things were still important, but it was really the results that he got for other people that he wanted to continue to have them see him in that way. But it was more important for him to identify with, who do I say I am?
Absolutely.
I don't think reinvention is supposed to be a tangible thing at all. I don't think that changing your hair qualifies as necessarily reinventing. I don't think that there's like always a physical manifestation of it, but more to your point of where it's just really you taking the time to figure out like what it is that makes you see yourself the way you do, and what are the factors that impact that. And I think a lot of what reinvention should be is you kind of filtering out those factors, right? Yeah, and I would just kind of add a little bit of a twist to that. I think it's going to be different from person to person, and the process is going to, like you said, it's fluid, right? And sometimes it will result in some external cues and clues that show us, because maybe, for example, I shared when I was here in November, you know, some of who we are is expressed through the way we dress or maybe how we style our hair, but that is not, you know, all of who we are. It's part and parcel, you know, of how we express ourselves. But to your point, just because, you know, we cut our hair or color our hair, it doesn't mean that we reinvented. It means that we're tapping into something that naturally resonates with us, and we're getting closer to the core of who we truly are. Right. And there's no right or wrong for that. It's just ours, and we have to embrace it and lean into it and own it.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that.
So how do we do this? How do we reinvent?
So how do we reinvent ourselves? Well, for me, one of the things is to really own your truth. And I know that's like this very, you know, it sounds very philosophical, and it's huge. It's okay, so what's the prescript for that, right? How do we own our truth? it really is being honest and saying, you know what, this does bring me joy, or I'm not happy about getting up in the morning. I prefer, to your example, Danielle, I prefer to start my day at noon. I mean, I don't know how many people
have that
really,
luxury.
Well, the question is, why don't we? Because we put ourselves in a box and we say, I have to do it this way because this is what everybody's telling me I have to do. But being intentional is how we reinvent ourselves. So what is it that we're going to do? How are we going to do it? You know, what is it that we desire more than anything? Right. And like you said, looking at that to see, what do I already embody that allows me to be this, or to demonstrate this, and then stepping out and saying, okay, where do I need to go? Who do I need to talk to? Who should I surround myself with? What am I, allowing into my context and my environment that's promoting this for me or helping to shape this, versus what's causing me to not want to do this, or what's telling me not right now? That's ego. Ego will never tell you no, it'll just tell you not right now.
Yeah,
you
ego
can
is
do it
the
later.
enemy. There's a book about that.
Right.
Another point to that is, I'm just going off something you said, Dr. Fleming, about, maybe not always taking the safe path or taking the path that everyone says you have to do, or putting yourself, like you said, in that box. Because even, and I'll just use high schoolers as an example. My parents say that I have to go to college and I have to finish in 4 years and I have to get this kind of degree. But who says you have to do that? And who says you need to get that degree? And who says you need to go work for the Fortune 500 company and deposit 20% of your salary into your 401k so that you can retire at the age of whatever, having this amount of income? Who says, who says that your life needs to be that cookie cutter? If that's not going to spark your spirit.
Right, and please don't misunderstand what Danielle's saying. We're not saying haphazardly go throughout life.
Yes, without a plan. And
what's your process? What's going to be your journey? For example, I remember growing up. It was interesting. I had a couple things I wanted to be. One was a judge, right? And I kind of satisfied some of those things by telling people what to do all the time. But I wanted to be a psychiatrist. And I remember vividly my mom telling me, "You're not going to do that. They don't make any money." And so I thought, they don't make any money. Well,
I can't do that.
Fast forward, lots of psychiatrists in here. But that stuck in that was in my conscious and subconscious thinking, but it didn't leave my spirit in terms of wanting to help people. I knew that I wanted to be able to help people, maximize their potential and inspire them to new possibilities, or just possibilities. They didn't really have to be new, things that were already there. And so I'm in organizational development, org behavior. So while you may not come and see me in a clinic, I see you in your organization. And so and my whole thing is I coach the whole person. You can't coach the leader without coaching the person.
Right.
And so a lot of how we lead, or who we are, or how we parent, or how we, maintain or develop relationships, those are some things that are either naturally, a part of us, or they've become cultured in us through our environment, as you said earlier. And so I say those passions don't leave. How do we cultivate them? And paying attention to that is a part of that process, that journey of reinvention, because those things keep resurfacing. That's why the full orbit always brings us back to there's more, because we're tapping back into our natural desires.
Exactly.
I think society has created a platform to sustain reinvention. I think that nowadays it's easier, it's more accessible, and it's more accepted to reinvent yourself. Like, if you wanted to still go and pursue whatever credential you would need to be a psychiatrist right now, you could do that, and nobody would necessarily look at you crazy for doing it. Right. Or if you wanted to leave this show and go open an artisan bakery, you could also do that. Right. There's just so much accessibility and openness to things that it really does invite reinvention in.
And the beauty of that statement is I saw my journey to doing what I was deeply rooted, passionate about, in a different way. So it didn't have to be the path that, is traditional for how do you help people and how do you really elevate a person's consciousness or elevate their esteem or whatever it is, create elevation in their life through a clinical path, I do that every day. I don't have to be called, what it is that everyone says the title should be. I just need to do the work that drives at the purpose I was created to do. That's it for me. So it's not about the credentials. It's not about the, not that those things aren't important if that's what you want, but it should not be defined and wrapped up just in that.
I agree with you.
So if you would, there are, like we said, it's a new year. Everybody's still keeping that momentum going. What are some tips that you would give to those who are looking to reinvent or just want to know how?
Well, the first thing I would say is spend some time with you. Like, really take a moment and just figure out, who am I? And when I say who am I, not the titles that we bear or the names that we call ourselves, but what makes me laugh? What makes me excited? What are those things that, I wake up in the middle of the night or early in the morning thinking, this is what I want to be. This is, how I want to contribute to my family, my community, my world. Doing that and be prayerful. That is something that I do. I pray and meditate, and my daily prayer as a part of it is for me to become more clear every day on my purpose and how to actually live that intentionally and set intentions, because goals are great, but the goals are only achieved when we're intentional about the actions we need to take or the rhythms we need to sustain in our lives to be consistent with those things that allow us to achieve and show up the way that we want to show up. So I think that's a great place to start. And you might be saying, well, I don't know what I like. Spend time doing different things. Try some of the things you like. Get out, meet new people. Look at people that may be doing or, could be in the setting that you want to see yourself in. Find out how they're doing it. There's no such thing as competition.
Right.
There's so much for all of us, but there is an opportunity to learn and grow from others. I would say start there.
I definitely agree. I think also not being afraid to take the path of more resistance. And I'm not going to say most, but I definitely also won't say least. Because the path of least resistance, anyone can take. Anyone can take the easy route. Anyone can do the bare minimum. But the bare minimum has proven time and time again to really not get people places that they want to go. Unless, you've just, been blessed in certain ways and you're able to. But for the majority of people, that's not a reality. And I also think, the path of most resistance, it doesn't make sense to work hard but not smart.
I would say even open up your mind a little more and determine what your path could and should be. And let's not define it by most or least. Let's just define it by what needs to be. And as we're going through that, there may be challenges. Let's not kid ourselves, as you said, Danielle, but let's not allow the mind to take over. I mean, a lot of times, there's something else that there's a big part of this is, what are the critics saying? Well, a lot of times we won't hear the critics if we're focused on what we want to do. We only hear the voice of the critics when we are second guessing ourselves. Right?
Absolutely.
And so when we truly believe in what it is that we were purposed and ordained to do, then we move forward, and it kind of minimizes that. In fact, I had someone ask me, they said to me, I've seen a change in you. I've seen you doing different things, because I've never been one for the public eye, so to speak, I would say. And they said, well, you're getting out there and you're being more visible. What are your friends saying? What are people saying? And I thought about that, and I said, well, I don't understand the question. And they said, well, people see this difference. Like, how do they feel about that? And I thought, well, I never really stopped to think about how they feel about it. And I haven't thought about that. My friends that know me, they actually said, it's about time. We were waiting for this. I mean, this is who you've always been. And those that have something contrary, well, just rise above that. And invite them to share the space with you and do the same thing in their life. Right? So that's a big part of the process. When you say, what do? You have to quiet the noise of what people are saying.
Yeah, I think it's super important that every opportunity that you get in this process, that you absorb it and take it all in, and you can't do that if you're focusing on your peripheral and not on what's right in front of you. So we really I think we've got some good stuff here. Okay. I think you've given some wonderful insights. We are so happy
you ladies
to have
too.
you. Yeah. Thank you
and
so much.
And I know Dr. Fleming had one, before we wrap up, had a question for us, and we want to just address that really fast too. So
okay, so there was a question right before we started this segment. If you could reinvent yourself to be anything or anyone, what would it be? Let's have a little fun with this.
I'm not going first.
She's like, you're not going first.
No, I'm not.
Does it have to be like a specific thing, or
you
just
can do whatever
general?
you want?
So for me, and I was thinking about this earlier during the break, I think for me, the reinvention of myself would be just holding myself to a higher standard and being the best version of myself that it could be. So, whether it's exercising more discipline in specific areas of my life, or whether it's, being kinder to others, or being more hospitable as a person, being the type of person who is of their word 100% of the time. And, if you're going to say you're going to do something, actually do it every time you say it, being that type of reliable person, and just holding myself to like that really high standard. Not to say that I would be perfect, because nobody ever is perfect, but I think striving for that and being intentional about doing that every day and planning for that daily, setting yourself up for success. Like, for example, last night, I was thinking about today and ironing my clothes for what I was going to wear today, preparing lunch, preparing like a smoothie for breakfast, because I know in the time that it takes to get ready in the morning and all the things I have to do in the morning, I'm not going to have time to do all those things. So setting myself up for that success and being intentional about that every day, and being consistent would help me to do that. So that's my thing. Now your turn.
If I could reinvent myself into anything, it would be Beyonce. Because she's everything that I want to be in
If you've
life.
ever seen a show with Alexis, she's
but
Beyonce.
No, in seriousness though, like along that line though, like I want to be like the Beyonce in my life. Like I want to be that type of discipline. I want to have that kind of intention. I've declared this year for me the year of intention, and it's just moving with purpose, like we talked about on the show. That's really what it boils down to, all jokes aside for me. It's just moving with intent, every step being either progression towards the goal or a lesson that I can take with me on my way to the goal. Cool. So that's where I'm at with it. And we would invite you all to please share with us. Yeah. If you could reinvent yourself into anything, what would it be and why? We are on social media, all platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at City of Miramar. And Dr. Fleming, please share your handle with them as well.
Yes, it's Dr. Shaniqua Fleming. That's on all handles as well.
Yes. So, if you're watching this on Facebook Live, we'd love for you to comment below with the answer to the question that Alexis mentioned. We're always giving out prizes here on Good Morning Miramar, and we'd love to feature some of your answers next month on our series, Beyond Boundaries with Dr. Fleming. And that's going to take place the second Tuesday of every month. We have some great topics here coming for you. We're going to have some special guests on the show. And so if you're interested in partaking, in being a part of Good Morning Miramar, being a part of this series, keep on the lookout as well, because we're going to be handing out information on how you can be a part of our show as well. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, ladies, for a great conversation. It was a really nice intro to our series.
Yes, I think so. I feel good about it.
I just add to that comment section as we're closing out, even if it's something that you're thinking you want to do and it feels or seems that it's out of reach, do something. So if you want to be a baker, how can you be a baker and you've never bought a new cupcake pan? Go out and do something that moves you closer to whatever that thing is that you want to see yourself doing, whatever that area of your life you want to see yourself developing. I mean, if you're saying you want to be a singer, how could you never have a karaoke night? Whatever it is. If you want to write, do you want to journal? Whatever it is, think about if you're saying you want to make $1 million in your business, well, what do millionaires do? What does their pattern look like every morning? Whatever it is, become that person in your mind first, and you will set the intention by making sure your actions follow those thoughts that you have. So,
definitely. Thank you, Dr. Fleming. Thank you, Alexis. And thank you to all of you for tuning in. We hope you join us every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Remember, it's right here in Miramar. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.